What's going on, people out there? This is your host of the brand new, not even brand new, just redone, the ZenoCast. This is episode 2, and the title of this episode, as it says down there, is The Mindset Battle, right? So, on this episode, I'm going to be discussing the differences between the poor slash poverty mindset and the rich slash wealthy mindset, right? I'm going to give a couple examples from my personal life, and I'm going to throw out a couple versus battles, I guess, about 3 different ones, and I'm going to give you a couple snippets from a wonderful book that I've read called The Magic of Thinking Big. So let's get to it. All right. It's also May 6th. Yep, May 6th, day after Cinco de Mayo. So to everyone out there, happy belated Cinco de Mayo. All right, all right. Okay, so as I get into this episode here, um, the definition of the poor mindset versus the rich mindset. A poor mindset has typically means that you're you live in scarcity. You operate in survival mode. Uh, you're not really into investing. That's not really your game. It's more so everything quick, everything right then and there. Normally, there isn't any wait for money. Normally, those people think a W-2 job is better than running your own business. Normally, those people shun up on running your own business compared to a rich mindset, right? So we're looking at growth, we're looking at the understanding of what investing is, actually educating yourself on money, learning how to budget, reaching out to people, networking. Those are things with a rich mindset, quality over quantity. You feel me? So, if I could give one example from for each one in my life, my poor mindset example would actually come from when I was raised. I was actually taught to use $20 to help stretch for a week to make groceries. Now, back in those times, it could work, but you would be buying a lot of noodles, a lot of hot dogs, a lot of spam, a lot of lunch meat, a lot of pork, not that many vegetables and things like that. That was more so the poor scarcity mindset, right? The survival mindset, as in we gotta put something on our stomach so we can actually say that we've eaten something instead of actually looking at what we're putting into our stomachs. Rich mindset is the flip of that, right? So for the past, I'd say since about 3 years almost, since about summer of 22. Let's go from there. My wife and I have constantly been making it an effort to go when we go shop. We're gonna go to Central Market, which is a Whole Foods version of HEB. Um, Now we don't necessarily stay close. It's a good, I think, 15 or 16-minute drive. But on a bus, it's about an hour and a half, give or take. And we've made it a point for the past 3 years or so to actually go and shop and get our groceries from there. Now the price isn't too expensive, but the quality of the food, the quality of the products they sell is it can't be beat. By far, I honestly believe, and there's a lot of people that believe it with me as well. I believe Central Market is the best grocery store in the city. Hands down. Everything from their coffee. This ain't about them. This ain't about them. Let me not get too deep into that. But the concept of, hey, I would stroll past any other grocery store just because I know I am going to the best quality one. And, I'd be happy as hell going in there too. Like, I'd be hitting like little dances and stuff. Like, it's funny, it's they do these little like festival, not really festivals, but they have setups, tables, and stuff. And man, I love it. I know with summer coming right around the corner, oh man, we it's about to be crazy over there at Central Market. But I love it. Love the experience. Um, the healthy food is cool, but the experience is what gets me keep going. But the fact that I literally go across town just to go to that one store, while I would pass up other stores that don't have the same quality of food. A lot of people have looked at us, me and my wife, as like, are y'all stupid? And we look at them and be like, nah, we full on some good food. We ain't stupid. Take your ass to Rounders if you want to. All right, all right. So um, now I am about to go into at least about three versus matchups, right? So if you hear something that sounds familiar or you hear something that has made you think, because a lot of people I know have had these same kind of like struggling issues and struggling battles between, do I get the better version or do I just go ahead and take what's quick and what's available now? You know, First thing I want to talk about when it comes to the mindsets is rich mindset invests their money, poor mindset spends their money. Primary example. In my last video, I did detail my last working, job, doing being a security guard. And I also detailed how I ended up forming a plan to get myself out of that position in which I knew I wouldn't have to stay there very long because I'll put myself in a position to where all expenses will be paid for a number of months and I can just move from there, doing my entrepreneurship. Excuse me. That was a thorough plan that my wife and I set up, and we could have got our checks and just did whatever we wanted to, went out, bought whatever. We said no. We're gonna save half our money just off the dump for our expenses, right? And then the other half, we're going to get at least about two items every 2 weeks that's going to help us out with our businesses or whatever we're wanting to do. And that's what we've done. So I honestly think that that was a marvelous plan, and I would actually tell that to anyone. Start with a plan. If you want to kind of back up from the position, cool. Start with a plan. Now it's going to come a little tough because you're actually going to have to stick to that plan, right? So you sticking with that plan is going to be the difference between you staying in that position and you actually being able to walk away comfortably because hey, I can walk away and I don't have to worry about, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay this? You walked away good. You already had a plan. Most people, most poor-minded people, do not like to actually plan. And if they do come up with a plan, the minute one thing happens, plan's out the door. They're back to square root one. Trust me, we had times where we was like, you know what, we about to just say F the plan, forget it. But we didn't have it in us. We couldn't give up. You know, we couldn't necessarily just quit from the plan because we knew us working through this plan on the other side is going to put us in a position that's going to be way better. If we still had that poor mindset, we wouldn't have even probably came up with a plan. Would have just stayed in the position that we were in, collected our checks, spent up all our money, and then when tax time come, we're going to be looking stupid because we're not going to get this large lump sum of tax money that everybody around us gets. You know, we had to do that plan, um, and that's what we did. You know, The second thing here, right? Poor-minded people, they like to point the blame. You know, rich-minded people takes ownership, even if it's not their fault. Hey, this affected me. Yeah, it might not have been my fault, but this is how I got to get through this. This is how I got to get to my point. This is how I got to get to point C from A and B. You know, they don't stop when something doesn't work. They don't stop when something goes wrong. Yes, it sucks. They get emotional, they get upset, but that doesn't mean that they're going to stop. Poor minded people, they get upset, they get emotional. They typically do things that not only is not going to help their situation, it's actually going to make things exponentially worse, you know? Because a lot of times, poor minded people um, lack communication skills, not because they can't gain them, mostly because they've never been taught. A lot of them were taught in situations where either you were hit when you said something or people mentally hit you when you said or did something as a child. So you already grew up in the space not being able to voice your opinion, you know? And that leads to when you got adults who can't communicate like adults should be able to communicate to each other. Um, it's not on the school system, that's on the household, you guys. That's not on the schools, that's on the household. All right. And the last thing I want to talk about here is the risk takers, right? So with the poor minded, they don't take risks. They don't invest. Risk not only is scary, it's pointless because they feel like they're going to lose everything. Or if they happen to win something, they won't win as much as somebody else did, you know? And that's also another story, too. Don't compare your journey to anybody else's journey. Because, example, the OG Warren Buffett, who just, retired. No one ever can ever compare their life to Warren Buffett. Ain't nobody starting at age 9 or 11 investing. You know what I'm saying? Especially back in those times. No. If you 9, 10, 11 years old, you're not going to be investing. Especially now. Like, it's too much. In people's faces, there's too much stuff out there that people see to where 9, 10-year old, you ain't gonna start investing. You ain't gonna start reading those kinds of books. But if you do, you might be on something, right? But I say that to say nobody could ever compare themselves to Warren Buffett. We could study him. I study him. He has a lot of great things. He's written a lot of great books. I love his interviews, especially his current ones, because his current ones, he's still him. He's still charming. He's still coherent. Unlike some people. It was supposed to be a Joe Biden little picture pop up, but that didn't happen. All right. So yeah. So taking risk, calculated risk, right? So calculated risk means you checking out certain factors. Um, you're measuring twice, cutting once, and it doesn't mean that it's because you take a calculated risk it's going to work out. It still could fail. You still could be like very much the difference between a calculated risk could be like 1%. But you tend to learn more from that calculated risk than if you were just not taking risks or if you were not used to taking risks or you had the mindset of, hey, this risk is probably not going to work out. Speaking of mindset, y'all see that book right there? Oh, right there. The Magic of Thinking Big. Now, if you want to change your mindset, if you want to boost your mindset, this book right here, yeah, right there, that book could do it for you. It's going to change your thoughts. Some people might have heard of the words or the phrase, change your thoughts, change your life. This book is the written word for word verbatim of that, you know. Some of my favorite quotes from the book, uh, believe it can be done. When you believe something can be done, really believe, your mind will find the ways to do it. In other words, if you could believe something that could be done, it could be done. Don't. So when someone faces you with a question or poses a problem to you, even if you don't know how it can be done, still say, I could do it, or it could be done. I just need to figure out what. I need to figure out where to start. I need to figure out what I need to do. I need to figure out what's the second step. Okay, I need to figure out what specific piece is missing, you know. Or if I do know the piece, okay, if I can just find that piece, chances are this issue is going to be fixed, or it's going to be a lot closer to being fixed. Um, that helped me out because sometimes we don't realize we could count ourselves out, or we could already tell ourselves without specifically saying it. We could tell ourselves we can't do something without saying, "Hey, brain, I can't do this." We'll say, "Yeah, I don't think I could do it," or "I don't think I'll be able to go that far. I don't think I'll be able to." You can do it, you know. Like for me, I one day I do want to be a millionaire. I know I can do it. I just have to figure out ways to get to that part, point, part, whatever. I have to figure out a way to get there. Uh, I did tell one of my former coworkers because she was kind of counting herself out. And me, I'm the type of person, I don't like to see people doubt themselves. And I know that's crazy as hell because like I've doubted myself numerous times. I just don't like to see other people do it to themselves, right? Even if you have failed at something, right? What did you learn from that failure? What would, if you could take away three things that you've learned from that failure, then you're already close to being successful at whatever you failed at, then you honestly believe, you know? So that's why it says think and it can be done. Like really think and it really can be done. Like just really concentrate. And man, you'd be surprised how many ideas you can come up with in the span of 10, 15 minutes. Once you get past one hurdle, those next couple hurdles, I ain't gonna say they'll be easy, but you'll have more tools to work with to get past them, right? Number two, big success, big success calls for big thinking. All right. Fixed mindset, i.e., a poor mindset, versus an evolving mindset, i.e., abundant or rich mindset. Okay. If you want to be, if you want to have a multi-million dollar business, right? If you want to be with the big players of whatever city you're living in, this is something that you're going to have to actually talk to yourself and tell yourself every day. We want big success, so we have to think big. We have to grow, you know. We have to always change and up everything. You know what I'm saying? It's not you're never if you ever feel like you're at a point where you're stagnant and you can't think past that or you can't think higher, or you don't view yourself going higher than where you are, you need to really sit down and read this book. Yeah, this right here. You need to read it. Because if you want like the high uh if you want the high I guess goals in life, you have to think about 'em. Like you have to really think like, yeah, I'm gonna be a millionaire. Yeah, I'm going to have whatever car. You know, I'm going to have whatever penthouse suite. You know, and I'm not saying you should just think about those things from the standpoint of just wanting it and not actually wanting to put the work in, because that's two different things. You can use those things of wanting to be a millionaire, wanting a certain vehicle, wanting to live in a certain house or a certain neighborhood. Use that as your motivation every day to help push you forward. That's what I did. Because reading this book, listening to videos about it, listening to certain audio files about it, it had me constantly telling myself, like, oh, I can do more. Oh, I really can do more. Like, it's not just like something I'm holding inside of myself. Like, no, I'll easily tell anybody, like, yeah, I'll be a millionaire. Like, it's not, and I don't view it as like me being cocky or conceited or, God forbid, thinking I'm better than somebody. I just view it as this is what I want. I know steps to get it. I just have to go through it. Doesn't mean that I'm a succeed like within a year. Doesn't mean it's going to take me 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I just know I'm going to get there. I don't know when. I just know it's going to happen. And just keep moving like that. Just keep working. Keep growing. And the third and final thing, right? This is a good one. Excusitis. The failure disease is deadly. Never underestimate its power to keep people broke and stuck. I'll do it tomorrow. I probably can't do it right now because, I wanted to record this earlier. Unfortunately, I didn't get that chance because I was having a bit of a CPU issue. I could have just, closed down the top and said, hey, I'll do it later. I'll do it tonight, do it tomorrow. Mm-mm. I had to get done today. Not because I had to meet a certain date deadline or I had something else I was doing later. I had it like, yo, I'm going to fix this. It's going to take me probably like a good 2 extra hours than I thought it would to record, and I have to move other stuff back. But that does not mean this recording won't get done. I made it a point today that I was going to do this recording, and this is exactly what I'm doing. So you don't let excuses keep you stuck. Don't let them keep you in that same powerless, broke mindset. Let those excuses go. Just do. It's a lot easier said than done, but just do. You just have to go out there. Kind of like when you learning how to swim. You just got to get thrown in a pool and just learn. Just got to go. You're not gonna drown, hopefully, but you just got to go and do it. You just got to go out there and say, "F it." Hey, I, I never want to be in a position to where I'm 40, 50, 60, 70 years old and I look back and say, man, if only I had continuously kept up with reading those books, if only I had continuously kept up with those teachings, if only I had continuously kept growing myself, growing my mindset. I never want to be in a position where I'm older and I have to look back with regrets. So, hey, and when you do, it makes it so much easier to not give a damn about what anybody else think. Like it really do. Like it's one of the best things ever. Like you don't care. It makes you care less about what people think because it's like I'm out here doing. Whether I'm successful or failing, I'm out here shaking and moving. Eventually, the success is going to come, but you won't be successful if you never do. You have to do, and you also have to learn. So those are my favorite three teachings, quotes from the book, Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. I mean, you want to talk about a read that's going to make you just. Some people might consider it, I think, too much of myself. I don't give a. I can't really say what I want to, but I don't care, because if I don't think the most of myself, I already know you won't. But I don't expect you to because that's not you. Nobody out there is supposed to be thinking the most of me except my wife, which she does. But even with that, If I don't think the most of myself, she gonna look at herself and be like, why do I even believe in him? Why do I even let him lead me? He don't even believe in himself. So how can he lead me? How can he tell me what to do? You know what I'm saying? So, oh man, that was a good one, man. I'm going to be bringing out some more quotes from some more books. I think I'm going to talk about a little cash flow quadrants. You know, pun was definitely intended. If you know, you know. All right. So I think on with this episode concluding, if anybody out there listens to this, it's stuck, you know, again, straddling that fence between poor and rich mindset, please type it down in the comments. Leave any comment. You can say, I suck a. At least you commented. So leave a comment down in the comments and just leave a like on the video. And thank you guys so much. And I'll be back with more magic of thinking big or cash flow quadrants. Which one? Whichever one. Whichever one.